Hi, Dave Taylor here, and I am going to help you make a great SearchCon presentation. I'm going to give you all the details of what we need. I'm the videographer, as you can see in this slide, and we're going to cover, as I say here, everything you need to know about your virtual SearchCon presentation, but haven't thought to ask. So here's what I'm going to be covering. I'm going to be covering deadlines and required formats, and a bunch of video considerations for you to create the best looking video you can, including audio, lighting, setting, presentation style. Then I'll talk about different ways to work with slides. I'm already demonstrating that you can have something like this, where basically you give me the video, you give me the timing, and I can just cut and drop slides in wherever you tell. So that's actually my favorite way to do it. But we'll also talk about duration and Q&A and how we have this whole thing structured to make it as lively, engaging, and interesting as possible, while still making sure we have your presentation in the can, as they say. So let's jump in. Don't want to spend too much time on this. So first off, deadlines. We've got deadlines. Here's your deadline. 10th of September, Thursday. I don't know, noon, midnight, whenever. But have your video recorded and submitted by then. Now, I really want you to submit 720p. You can do 1080, but I'm gonna just render it down to 720. But anything lower res than that, and it's not gonna look really great. So please try to figure that out. Make sure what you submit is in MP4 or MOV format. If you have another format that your system's outputting, then email me. I'll give you my address again, but it's right on this slide. But email me and ask me questions. That's really the best way to do it. Also, include your presentation. People want to see your slides. And the best way to do that is to have them in PPT for PowerPoint, or PPTX for PowerPoint Advanced, I guess, or PDF. Now, if you're using Keynote or something, well, we're going to have to convert it, so it's easier if you just export it as PowerPoint. And for those of you that are giving presentations where you don't want to share your slides or anything, well, still give us your slides so that we can drop them into your talk if that's appropriate. And we'll just honor that, and we will make sure that we're not actually sharing those slides. But generally speaking, people like to have something that, lets them follow along, especially with this sort of era of us doing it all by a video. So ideally, put it in Dropbox, Box.com, Google Drive, whatever. Get all your stuff ready, upload it all, and then send me a link. What I don't want you to do, please do not just upload it to YouTube. The reason for that is because YouTube re-encodes your video. And if I then download it and then upload it again with all the bumpers we're putting on it, it's not going to look very good. So please, YouTube might be great, and I'm happy to give you a final copy so you can do that. But for this purpose, for SearchCon, we really want to get that raw, straight video as best we can so we can work with it and make you look as good as we can. Now, what else do we got? Okay, audio. Use a microphone. If you're just using the microphone built in on your laptop, especially if you have ambient noise around you, it's not going to sound very good. People need to get good sound. That's like, there's so much research to show people are willing to put up with crummy video, but they want really clean sound. What I like is I actually like using lavalier, wired lavalier mics. And I don't know if you can see, but right here, this is that $20 wired mic that I have a link to on Amazon. Just go buy one. It's a wired mic. You can use it with your phone. You can use it with your computer. You can use it with your camera. I have it plugged into a, $1,800 Sony camera. So it works, and it seems to do a pretty darn good job for a long time for 20 bucks. Who can complain about that? Also, get rid of background noise. Don't have any music at all. If we need to add music, we can do that, but then we can use royalty-free or unlicensed to license unnecessary music. And that's really important, especially if we're going to ultimately put all our videos up on YouTube, which we're still discussing, and we'd love to get your input. But if we put it on YouTube and it has music that's not licensed, they'll automatically gig us, and then we'll get in trouble. So we don't want to upset the YouTube/Google gods, as you well know. So that's super important. You don't really need someone with a boom mic. I don't have anyone with a boom mic here, although it's kind of fun to play with that, but then I'd have to have other people. And right now I'm doing all this out of my home studio, which is really nice, which reminds me, let's talk about lighting. So right now I have a huge window on this side that gives me a ton of illumination, but that's not enough. I also have a big studio light right there to make sure that I have that fill, because I don't want this side well illuminated and this side really dark. So ideally you want to use multi-point lighting. In the photo on this slide, you can see that I have 2 lights on both sides of the thing I'm about to videotape, and I have overhead light too. That's 3 points. For bonus points, you can actually have a light behind you, and then that's called, I think of it as like a trigger light, right? Or a hairline light. And what it does is it gives you a light around the edge of your hair, and that can look very attractive. If you don't want to go to that level of complexity, that's okay, but at least have enough to make sure you have an even illumination across your face and your torso. That's going to be important. So, like I said, windows good. Windows and nothing else, not so good. Okay, and a visual context. So there's a bunch of ways you can actually have your presentation look really professional. And that's really the key concept. That's why I have this environment around me, is I want to have you immediately start watching and immediately give me credibility. This does not happen if you're in some chaotic office space that looks like it's also storage for 1970s electronics and wires and goodness knows what, right? Clean things up. In this photo, when I shoot, and I do a ton of shooting and have a lot of videos on YouTube, when I shoot in my kitchen, I push all the crap out of the way. So it's just off camera. And so what's great is it looks really clean. It looks really good, and it's not distracting. I really appreciate when people say, oh, your kitchen's beautiful, it's so clean. I'm like, if only you knew. But that's okay. That's part of the magic of what we're working with this year with SearchCon. So remove clutter. Think about props, right? If I'm actually emulating standing in front of a crowd, then having some water might be exactly what I would do if I was standing behind the podium and we were actually doing SearchCon in person. So that's totally fine. Think through what you're doing and make sure everything around you conveys the message you want. I do a lot of Zoom calls and people don't get this. And so it is entertaining and often laughable what they have behind them when they're trying to be like some high-powered expert consultant that's getting paid $500 an hour. And behind them is like, you know, a bunch of toys for a 6-year-old, and it's just like, you might need an office, just saying. So the other way to do it is to use a green screen. And the advantage of the green screen is that I can change my background, right? So green screens are really fun, and I'm gonna just zoom out just so you can see. This is actually pretty fun. So that's my home studio setup basically. So I just have a piece of green fabric that I got, you know, just clipped to the wall, and that's all I need because my video editing software makes it pretty darn easy to work with it and to replace it with whatever I want. So let me zoom back in a little bit more. And one of the nice things is it also works really well with Zoom. Zoom works with green screens. So when I do Zoom calls, I look very professional and I have a very professional environment around me, even if the reality is my house is utter chaos and I got kids and cats and dogs and everything going on. I can have it look like I'm in a really professional space. So another advantage is that when you have something like a green screen or a setup like that, you can sort of figure out all your lighting and then you're done. You don't have to actually work with it a second time. And the same with audio. I have my mic, I know where to clip it, I know how to wire it, I know where the tripod should be for my camera. Easy. I can set up and get started recording in probably under 90 seconds. So definitely worth checking out. The green screen, this fabric one that I have, this is just fabric, is about 30 bucks. It's not very expensive. And again, I can change my background. I think it's pretty fun, right? So you can try these sort of things. You don't have to, it's okay. But the goal is really to have this be a professional presentation. So all of these things I'm talking about are all going to work together to make you look really professional. Now, one more key point is how we're going to work with slides. I will say, please don't just voice over your slide presentation. You can do that in something like PowerPoint, and it is boring as paint drying. So we really, really don't want to get those. If you want, you can use a service like Loom at loom.com. That's what this example slide is from. And you can have a little inset of you talking while most of the screen is the slide. You know, that's not a bad strategy, but I really like having it be mostly you or me, and then the slide pops in as needed and then pops out when necessary. So if you do something like Loom with an inset, remember the video is still important. The audio is still important. The background, the lighting, all of those still count, even if you're just going to be like a little postage stamp, probably a big postage stamp, but be that as it may, you still want to look good and come across professionally. If you're doing a full screen presentation, I can easily drop in slides wherever you want them. So, you know, all you have to do is when you turn in your final video, well, actually, just go to the next one. So when you turn in your final video, just give me timestamps. So, you know, some of you have worked with me before on video from SearchCon or AgencyCon, and we've done this before too, but it's really easy for me to drop in a slide and your voice keeps going, everything, it's nice continuity, the slide comes up for however many seconds you want it to be up, and then you say, okay, I only need it for those 6 seconds, and then I want to come back to me. So super easy. I think that's the closest to us being in person. That's the closest to having the person who's watching you feel like they're at the event and you're standing in front of the group and actually presenting. So that's why I really favor that. But you know, you can choose between that and something like loom.com, but please be on camera. You know, if you're shy, this is the one time that you can re-record yourself a couple of times until you nail it. So unlike a regular conference where you might actually be, you know, fumbling and halfway through you're like, oh God, what have I said? You can just say, you know what, I'm going to roll that back and I'm going to just present the whole thing over again, because we're not asking for 1 or 2 or 3 hour videos. How long should the video be? I'm glad you asked. Actually, you in the back, thank you. That's a great question. And seriously, can you sit down? We're just about done. Easy. See? It's almost like we're there. So, duration and Q&A. Most of our slots are 30 minutes, and the way that Jim and I want to break this up is to do a 15-minute recorded presentation, and then 10 minutes of live Q&A, 15 minutes of live Q&A on the day of SearchCon. So, from the attendees' perspective, there'll be a live stream constantly going, and you know, you'll talk and give your presentation, and then you're available for live Zoom, Partridge Family sort of Hollywood Squares Zoom interaction, and you can answer questions, you can explain a little further, you can update your presentation, whatever. So that's going to be live. There's nothing you have to prep for that. So your recorded presentation should be about 15 minutes. And because with every presentation I'm going to have an opening slide and a closing slide, it actually means that your presentation should probably be closer to 14 minutes long. You can do it. 14 minutes. I have confidence. When you submit all of that, also let me know exactly what your preferences are for that title slide. How do you spell your name? What name do you want to use? Company name, company URL. Do you want your email address up there? Give me all that information so that I get it right. Easy enough. And you know what? That's really all I have. And the most important thing, and this is again, this is the year for you to really practice this, is to just do it more than once. Practice, practice, practice. I will tell you, I push out YouTube videos like every other day and have done for years, and I still screw up. And I still get halfway through a video and say, you know what? I'm going to start over. That just didn't work the way I wanted it to. So give yourself permission to do that. In fact, do a couple of practice runs where you're not actually intending to have it work. You're just maybe wearing shorts and a t-shirt and you're just like sort of trying to get the timing down, and then finally you do the recording and then you watch it, or maybe have your spouse or some of your friends watch it and then give that feedback and say, oh yeah, you're right, slide number 6, I think I should present that differently. So this is your golden opportunity. And with that, here's some quick reminders, just so these are top of mind. Your presentation is due, Thursday, September 10th, not Friday, September 10th. I knew there'd be a gremlin on one of these slides. Something would go wrong. Your output format ideally is 720p in MP4 or MOV format. Please include your slide deck. Make sure it's in PPT or PPTX or PDF format. Easy. If you want help, ask for it now. Don't wait until the 9th. In the evening and say, Dave, I can't quite figure this stuff out. And finally, ask me for help. I can help. I have this studio. You are absolutely able to rent it and just come over and give a presentation like this, and I'll take care of all the geeky stuff, right? If you don't want to worry about what camera to use and what the lighting is and microphones, I can do all of it from 6 feet away while socially distancing. So reach out, touch base, make sure everything's copacetic before we hit the deadline, and we're going to have a rockin' SearchCon, and I look forward to at least virtually seeing you this year and hopefully physically interacting with you at SearchCon 2021. That's all I got. So I hope this has been helpful, and if you have any questions at all, please reach out and let me know. All right, this is Dave Taylor, and I will see you at SearchCon.